गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुस्साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादशङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। नमामि गौडपादं च शङ्करं श्रीसुरेश्वरं स्वामिनं सच्चिदानन्दमिन्द्रं तं ज्ञानरूपिणे। ओम नारायण नारायण नारायण। ಈಗ ನೋಡಿ, we have to speak in English, okay. Adhyasa Shanka. We'll go. We have given already the outlines of it. We enter into the what you call Swamiji's commentary. Tatra Shanka Granthasya ayam abhipraya. Shanka Grantha, there are two sentences. First sentence talks about the objection. It raises objection against Adhyasa. It says that Adhyasa is impossible, therefore it is not there in our life. Adhyasa is not there in our life. So, yadetad upavarnyate atmanatmanor itaretara adhyasaha eva nimittam loka vyavaharasya. So, the loka vyavahara means what? All our life, loka vyavahara, all our life means all our dealings, all our kartrutva, bhoktrutva, means all our enjoyments, actions, knowledge, thinking, everything, the entire life in short. Not only personal life, the world also. Personal life, the world, the society, everything put together is vyavahara. So this vyavahara is not due to adhyasa. This vyavahara is not due to adhyasa, because now Siddhanti told that it is due to adhyasa all this samsara vyavahara is going on. Therefore, if that adhyasa is corrected, then samsara will go away. Purva Pakshi says samsara is there, that vyavahara we see them. But what you told, the root cause of samsara is adhyasa, this doesn't seem to be the fact. I do not find in our anubhava, if we watch and observe, adhyasa is not there in our anubhava. Yadetad upavarnyate atmanatmanor itaretara adhyasa eva nimittam. This is the third point. Okay, those who are referring the book, third point, adhyase shanka. That is the heading. Third point. From there I am continuing. Yadetad upavarnyate atmanatmanor itaretara adhyasa eva nimittam loka vyavaharasya tannopapadyate. Because adhyaso nama bhrantya samaropaha. Let us see, is there adhyasa in our life? Or is it possible? First, two things he says. Is it possible or is it there in our anubhava? First he says, for adhyasa to be present, it should be possible. If when there is a lockdown, when there is no bus, no train is running, how can he come here? It is impossible that somebody can come from such a distance outside. Similarly here, adhyasa means bhrantya samaropaha, mistakenly imposing, wrongly imposing, not consciously imposing. Consciously andre knowingly. It is not knowingly, mistakenly. You are not aware that in your understanding you think this alone is true. So, under your impression, under a wrong impression, you think that one thing for other. This is bhranti, this is adhyasa. Sacha samana swabhavayoreva sambhavati natu viruddha swabhavayo. This is very interesting point. So, adhyasa, okay, there are certain cases of misunderstanding in our life. We find many errors. Error means misunderstandings. These misunderstandings, error or adhyasas do take place in our life. Many times you see rope, we mistake the rope for snake. We mistake one person for another, one object for another. Many mistakes happen often in our life. Now you see, where can this mistake happen? See the context. See those contexts. in all our various mistakes, see the context. In what context, among the what type of objects this mistake can happen? He says, samana swabhavayoreva adhyaso sambhavati. Adhyasa is possible. There is a sambhava of adhyasa within the samana swabhava. And between the objects of similar nature. That means one object can be mistaken for another object, because one object is like another object, because object and object are similar. One object is like another object. Similar means qualities may be different, but being an object is similar. That this is also object, that is also object. So you can mistake. It is something like two objects can be mistaken, two objects of having a form. Formful object, rupa. Rupavan object, an object which has got a rupa or akara, can be mistaken for another. Can you mistake a stone for wind? Wind I am meaning Vayu. Can you mistake a stone for Vayu? Wind? Or wind for stone? Because they are totally different. Because there cannot be mistake, there cannot be misunderstanding or mistaking one for the other. He says, samana swabhavayoreva adhyaso sambhavati na viruddha swabhavayoh. Eke, what is viruddha swabhava? Atma, anatma or viruddha swabhava. So, to anatma. Anatma means what is visible, what is experienced by us. Sorry. What is experienced by us, one object, and another object can be mistaken. But here, what you are talking of, the adhyasa which you are talking of, is between subject and object. Atma is the subject, anatma is the object. How can subject be mistaken for object and object be mistaken for subject? Is it ever possible? Can you ever imagine? It looks so impossible. One object can be mistaken for another object. But subject mistaken for object? How can that be possible? Because they are totally opposite. Nobody ever can, supposing while looking at a table, does he ever think that I am the table? Nobody can ever think. Whichever you look at, whichever you see, I am that, nobody ever thinks of. Nobody ever thinks of I am that. Because adhyasa, misunderstanding myself as what I am seeing, subject object, between subject and object adhyasa is impossible. Because atmana atmano viruddha swabhava. Why? Subject and object, atma and anatma, are of totally opposite nature. How? Na anyonya samaparopanar, how? They cannot be imposed, mistaken. Why? Katam punaha tayoh viruddha swabhava. How can you say they are? In what? How can you say means in what sense? In what nature? In what capacity? In what nature? In what character they are opposite to each other? Opposite means they cannot be mistaken. They are so clear. Subject is subject and object is object. In whatever conditions you are, they can never be mistaken because their difference is very clear. Not only clear, they are opposite to each other. So opposite to each other that it is impossible to mistake them. How? Now he explains little more detail. Yushmad asmat pratyaya gocharayoh vishaya vishayuno. Two reasons he gives. One is Yushmad asmat pratyaya gochara. They are referable by I notion and you notion. Yushmat pratyaya gochara. Pratyaya is a notion. Gochara is referable. It comes to our, it remains, it comes to our experience in this manner. Gochara means, don't take it literally. In Sanskrit, gochara means an object. It is not simply object, because object is a little limited meaning. So gochara here means it can be referred, it comes to our anubhava in this manner. That's all we can take it, gochara. So, yushmat pratyaya gochara. Yushmat means you. Pratyaya is notion. In short, you notion. It is referable by you notion. Neenu, you notion. So, it can be referred by you notion. It comes into our anubhava as something that can be referred by you notion, as something that is referable by you notion. Isn't it? In Anubhava, how do you refer? You refer, it is through you notion. That is Yushmat Pratyaya Gochara. All Anatma is Yushmat Pratyaya Gochara. Atma is Asmat Pratyaya Gochara. Isn't it? So, Tavat Asmat Pratyaya Gochara. First it starts with Atma. Atma is Asmat. Asmat means I notion. Aham Pratyaya. Aham Pratyaya means Nanu iti Pratyaya. A thought, a notion that I. So this Asmat Pratyaya Gochara. So Atma Aham iti Pratyaya, Asmat Pratyaya. Sarvo hi Atmanam Aham iti Pratyayati. How does one come to cognize? How does one refer to Atma? How does one experience Atma? One experiences Atma in the form of I. Isn't it? Aham. Everybody comes to experience Atma as something in the sphere of Aham. Means something which is a subjective. Something as a subject only. So this is Aham iti pratyayati sarvohi Atmanam. Everybody experiences the Atma in the area of subject. In the area of subject, not in the area of object. Area means a subject side, let us say. It is more of a subject side, not as an object side. Atma is always experienced on subject side. In the sphere of, in the area of subject. Nacha asmat pratyayam vina kadachit bhavati atma vyavahara gocharaha. This is a very interesting point. Atma actually is not object of any notion. Notion means a thought. Atma is not available for any thought. Actually, Atma by its real nature, Atma means consciousness. Consciousness itself cannot be objectified by any thought. All thoughts arise in our consciousness only. Therefore, no thought can objectify the consciousness. No pratyaya can see the Atma as a Vishaya. Because Atma is not a Vishaya for anybody, for any thought. Thoughts can experience, thought can objectify any Anatma, any Deha, Indriya, and Prapancha, Namarupa, any object it can, Pustaka, Ghata, Kudya means wall, Vruksha. So any object, even the Surya, Chandra, Nakshatra, all these objects, your thought can think of. Can a thought think of the Atma? Can you think of consciousness? Consciousness cannot be thought of. Isn't it? Consciousness cannot be thought of. So, in the consciousness alone thought arises. Therefore, whenever thought arises, thought is about an object. See, this is a very interesting point, note it. There cannot be thought about consciousness. You cannot think consciousness. You think means there is something within consciousness. That means something which is known in the consciousness. Known itself means object of consciousness. So, whatever is known alone can be thought of. Consciousness itself cannot be thought of. Therefore, he says, Atma actually is not an object of any thought. Yet, actually it's not an object of any thought. Yet in our life, whenever we refer to Atma, whenever we refer through the thought of Aham. Through the pratyaya of Aham. Through Aham pratyaya. Aham pratyaya means notion or thought of I. I thought alone you refer the Atma. Otherwise, how do you refer? Do you refer consciousness through somewhere there? If you say, where do you say, where is consciousness? When you ask a common man, where do you say? Oh, it is somewhere there far away in the Himalayas. Can you refer that? Or somewhere in the sky? See, consciousness, once I say, how do you refer? Chaitanyam, Arivu, Tilivalike, Tilivi. How do you refer? You have to refer generally as a subject alone. Therefore, he says, in the Vyavahara, in the waking state, the consciousness which is the basis of entire waking state, entire all three states, is purely consciousness is present in deep sleep. So deep sleep cannot be thought by any other thought, any thought for whatsoever. Can you think of Sushupti? If you think, it is a false thought, because Sushupti itself is not available for any thought. When all the thoughts go away, when all the thoughts disappear, that is Sushupti, isn't it? Deep sleep state is, deep sleep is myself. I exist without having any thought. Therefore, myself, when I am existing pure self, myself, pure self means I alone. Pure don't mean imagine anything. Pure self means myself. I alone, without anything other than me. I alone, that is purity. Purity means aloneness. I am alone. Consciousness alone is there. So that consciousness doesn't have a thought. Only when you come to the waking state, you start imagining. When you imagine, what happens? The consciousness which is purely alone consciousness, only consciousness, bare consciousness, the bare Chaitanyam, alone Chaitanyam in deep sleep cannot be thought of. That's why when the waking mind is trying to imagine deep sleep, it says it is all blank. Sushupti is blank, there is nothing. There is nothing, all blank. Why do you think Sushupti is a blank or nothing? Do you say Sushupti is not my state? Do you say I don't exist in sleep? I must be there, because that is my experience. It is purely mine. Nobody can say that I never existed in deep sleep, because that is purely mine. If its Sushupti were not your experience, nobody would ever think of it. People would say, I have got only waking and dream, only two states. You would not have third state at all. But you know that deep sleep is yours, because you are very much there. When you come to waking state, from the waking, when you are trying to look at your deep sleep, when you are recalling, thinking, referring to others, three way, whether you are recalling your deep sleep, or when you are thinking of deep sleep, when you are talking about it to others, that is referring, when you are referring to deep sleep to others, in all these three, deep sleep looks like all blank and blank and blank, isn't it? It looks nothing, blank, khali khali ansuttade. It looks blank. Why? Because the mind is not able to reach there. Mind means thought. The thought is not able to reach deep sleep. Therefore, deep sleep looks blank for the mind, waking mind. Waking, why? Because when the waking mind, or in other words, the very thinking disappears, suspended, stops. When all the thinking is suspended, stops, then there is a Sushupti. Sushupti is there when all the thinking is suspended. Therefore, Sushupti cannot be thought of. Because to think it should be like this, distant, because it doesn't have any shape, any color, any form, any relationship. How can the mind, how can the thought think about it? Therefore, Atma by its very nature cannot be thought of. Yet, in our waking life, Vyavahara means in waking and dream state, in our waking and dream state, yet we refer the Atma means pure consciousness, the bare consciousness, the lone consciousness, alone consciousness, Chaitanya Matram, Kevala Chaitanyam. So that Chaitanya Matram, Kevala Chaitanyam, in waking state, how do you refer? Sushupti, when you wake up, how do you refer Sushupti? Do you refer Sushupti as I slept? It is me, I alone was in Sushupti? Or you say Sushupti is something like a third person? You don't refer Sushupti as a third person, isn't it? As an object. You don't refer Sushupti as a third person, as an object. In your waking state, you refer, oh, that was me. That was my experience, me. So, you refer Sushupti through subject alone, through aham thought alone. Isn't it? Through aham thought, in other words, you use aham thought alone in order to refer the Atma which is beyond thought. This is interesting. Atma or consciousness which is beyond thought, you can refer only through aham thought. Other thoughts are not useful. Idam thought, this thought, you thought, you cannot refer. This you can't use. You can't use the word you to the Atma. You can't use the word. Can you use the word you to the Atma? Atma is you. You are Atma. Nobody can say. Atma means consciousness. Oneself. So, nobody can use the word you. Nobody can use as a this. Nobody can use the word that. This, that, you, all these are used for an Atma only. So, for Atma, aham pratyaya is the only thought we are using in our life. In fact, Sakshi or Atma, witnessing consciousness. Sakshi means witnessing consciousness, all witnessing, entire world witnessing consciousness itself is not available for any thought. Yet, though it is a mistake, that is a different issue. Yet, we can use only aham thought, no other thought. Since we happen to use aham thought to refer Atma, see, asmat pratyaya, nacha asmat pratyayam vina kadachit bhavati Atma vyavahara gocharaha. When you are talking about Atma, when you are referring Atma to somebody else, you always use the word I. I thought alone, aham pratyaya alone you use to refer the Atma. Atma is beyond reference. Reference means by pointing out, by talking about it. Atma cannot be talked of, cannot be referred to. Yet we talk of only by this aham thought. That means aham thought tentatively we accept it, though it is not true. Therefore, asmat pratyayam vina kadachit bhavati Atma vyavahara gocharaha. Atma cannot be referred by any other thought, by any other word except aham thought. Because that's how we happen to, in our vyavahara, that's how we are using it. Asmat pratyayaha eva gochari bhavatyasau natu pratyayantare, Swamiji says. By no other thought, Atma can be referred. In fact, Atma is an object of no thought. Neither aham thought nor you thought. Neither subject thought nor object thought. Atma itself is neither subject nor object. It is the basis of both. Yet, in our vyavahara, in our common parlance, in our common life, in our normal life, when we are talking about Atma, when we refer it to others, we use the aham thought in order to refer the Atma. That means the reference of Atma through I thought is also not true, but that's how we are using in our life, therefore we are just referring it. It is something like, I'll give you an example, a very crude, laukika, worldly example. 2 or 3 people are sitting there. Sitting there from a distance, some function they have come and they are sitting and talking to each other. Now, one fellow, in those days, in our younger days, a person who grows a long hair, a young boy, grows a long hair, uses a black specs which has got a colored spect. Black colored spect means in generally in sunlight you use them. Very colored specs, big colored specs and long hair if a person uses, we would call him, he is a gunda, he is a rowdy. That's how in those days it was. Nowadays all these distinctions are removed totally. Therefore, anybody can behave, anybody can behave, anybody can talk, anybody can dress up like a rogue. So it is very difficult to distinguish who is who. So supposing that person has got a little, because at beyond certain stage, if the hair is grown, only certain vanaprastha and such people alone grow the hair. Other worldly people, those who live in the villages, if he grows unnecessary long hair, people would suspect this fellow is some rowdy. That's how it was in those days. Anyway, and another thing is using the black eyes, because eyes are a good identification. So you should not cover up your eyes with a colored glass. One is not supposed to use colored glass, because colored glass covers up your sight. Because the eyesight reflects your inner heart. Therefore, if a person uses a colored glass and then cow, hair. Okay, he's sitting there. From a distance, this fellow was talking. Hey, who is that person? Who are those three people? He says, you see that rowdy, who you see them? You see there is a rowdy and he is the person who has come from that village. You know, other person says, hey, don't call him rowdy. He's a great man, he's a big professor, don't call him rowdy. He told, okay, I am not calling him rowdy. He looks like rowdy. Okay. My purpose is not to describe him as a rowdy, to refer to him who is he, that's all. Somebody has come from that village, I am told. That village, who is the person has come from that village? You have to say, see, here is a person who is wearing a black specs, who looks like a rowdy. We are not describing him as a... See, this is the way the intention of the speaker has to be understood properly. Now this is a yuga because the media has come. Newspapers, magazines. In those days there was no media, there was no printing. Or even there was a printing, media was very little used. Highly educated people, good people. Media was used by highly educated, highly cultured people. The editors, writers, anybody would not do. In those days we would call yellow journalism. Now the word yellow journalism has lost meaning because journalism means only yellow. There cannot be other color journalism. There will be journalism means only yellow. It has come to mean like that, unfortunately. Of course there are few exceptions. But the good people are more an exception rather than common. So, in those days, educated people were like that. Therefore, the written word was taken in a good spirit because cultured people alone were reading the books. So, don't distort anybody's statement. Don't take it out of context. Don't take unintended meaning. Avivakshitartha. See, when somebody is speaking, we should not take unintended meaning. If you get a doubt, again verify. What do you mean? Do you mean this? Oh, unintended meaning should not be there. Don't take out of context. Don't stretch the meaning beyond what it simply means. If it really means in the context, if it really means, okay, we have to take it. So language was used for communication in India. Speaking was a great culture in India. And we got it from Europeans' invasion. Earlier those Turkish invasion and later European invasion. Through this alone, we got a language of cunning, language of hiding, language of diplomacy. All our language is spoiled. I have to say this because our people, while studying our ancient shastras, they keep on distorting. You can't distort because ancient days this kind of distortion was not there. People were expressing their views openly. Even Charvaka has a freedom to express his view. So we would take his views openly. Okay, we would not hide them. Neither he would hide. People were free to have their own views. Therefore, he would express his views openly. You could not express your views. You are suppressed, tortured, comes from Islam and Christianity. That means from the Europe, these two. Therefore, they have to hide them. Now, the present day, if you say one word, I say, I will go ahead. So, any sentence you take, exactly take it from different sense and criticize them. You see then the politicians, media, every sentence, every idea is taken out of context. Every implication is taken from a different angle, unintended meaning and criticized. I think more than 50% of media is going waste by distorting the views of others. More than 50% of media is going waste. And you see this is an Indian culture. We never abused media. Writing medium, the books, the speeches was always sincere. You speak sincerely. Two reasons. One is the people are given the value of Satyam. Speaking truth is the most important Satyam always. That is one. Second thing is don't take unintended meaning of others. Because freedom of expression was there. Freedom of expression was there and also freedom of thinking was there and speaking truth was a great value. Because of these three qualities in our ancient literature, in ancient pravachanas, writings everywhere, people were expressing their views directly. Therefore, you don't have to impose new views. That Draupadi married 5 husbands and Karna was born to another Devata, Surya, and Pandavas were born not to Pandu but through others. All these things we have never hidden. If these were the days, we would have hidden them and put something else, all meaningless. Because they were expressing things as it is. So there nowadays the modern research means what? Take unintended meaning, take out of context, and then keep on distortion. In fact, 90% of research is only distortion. Distortion alone. Where is the need to distortion? Distortion is required because in these days, in European culture, there was no freedom of expression. Even Nostradamus has to hide and use a highly disguised language he had to use. He had to use a disguised language. Andrenu, Maruvesha. Muchi, he has to use a language of Maruvesha language. Disguised language, he had to use it. That's why it has become very obscure, difficult to understand. In our Shastras, nothing is obscure, everything is open. Because honesty, sincerity, speaking truth, expressing freedom of expression was always there. Therefore, I am telling you this because in Ramayana, Valmiki did like that, and this like that, Rama was like that. All this modern research is a perversion. Because the present day pervert mind you are imposing in those days. Valmiki had freedom, Vyasa had freedom, everybody has freedom. Whatever they want to say, they said it openly. Now you don't try to imagine and then impose new meanings in that. Isn't it? Therefore, here, see a person who is looking like in a black, specs, colored specs. He looks like rowdy, he is the one handsome. The other person say, hey, don't call him rowdy. He is a nice man, he is a great man, he is a professor and all. He told, okay, I am not calling him rowdy. One who looks like a thief. See, looks like is only a reference. Looks like is only used to help you to understand. I am not calling him thief or rowdy. One who looks like a thief or rowdy, that's all. Why you call looks like? Because he looks like, what is that? Look, he looks like he need not be thief or rowdy. I also know. I don't want to say that he is a rowdy. But it looks like. So that looking like I am using only to refer. Similarly, aham pratyaya vishaya. Okay, come back to our topic. Aham pratyaya vishaya. We are not telling Atma is really aham pratyaya vishaya. But that's how it looks. We are only happen to refer through aham pratyaya, through thought of subject. We are referring to Atma through aham pratyaya. We happen to refer. It is not true. Atma cannot be referred by any pratyaya, whether aham pratyaya or idam pratyaya. Aham pratyaya, yushmat pratyaya, asmat pratyaya, by no pratyaya it can be referred. Atma is not available for any pratyaya. It is beyond thought. It is beyond pratyaya, apratyaya. It is beyond thought, aprameya. Yet, we are referring because that's how in Vyavahara we refer. So, since we happen to refer, we are using it. This is the point. He looks like a thief, I told, only to identify, because there are three people sitting. All the three are looking in the same dress. How to identify? Some distinguishing mark you have to tell. Some distinguishing mark you have to use in order to identify. That's all. So, I am only using a distinguishing mark. The distinguishing mark may not indicate him to be a thief. It doesn't indicate. I too know he is not thief. Yet looks like. That's all. Similarly, Atma is not really aham pratyaya vishaya. Atma is not really aham pratyaya vishaya. Okay. I think mic is okay. Yeah, he is telling clearly. So I think there are many reasons. It could be mistake with my mic, with my phone, or with my network, or your network and your phone. All the two places you have to see. Okay. So it looks like. We are only tentatively, it looks like only we are using. Don't mean that he is like that. Laukika worldly example I have given. He looks like a thief. Now, in those days we referred that he looks like a thief, but people would laugh at it and then just leave it out. Nobody would call him thief. Nobody would disrespect him as a thief. Nowadays, he called him He compared him with thief. Oh, he's wrong. He should apologize. He should apologize. Otherwise, we'll break his magazine or newspaper. Not only is apologize, he should close down his newspaper. People start beating him. This taking to street rowdyism has come from this European invasion. This invading two armies. One is a earlier Turkish army, and then they invaded for a few hundred of years. Later, the British army. So these are the two armies and the two rules. Two religions, you can say. Two religions means two armies. One is the first army and the second army. Army means religions. Okay. So these two armies alone brought this a perverted culture of this language, this diplomacy. Vivekananda would say. These are one sentence I say and come back to the topic. These are because communication is very important. We have to do accurate communication. These days communication is becoming a problem because of lack of culture, lack of values. We are distorting languages, books and reading and writing. I don't know if this kind of distortion continues. After a few decades, I think there will be thorough confusion. Already you find them. Nobody can speak anything. You speak, somebody will be hurt. Somebody will take unintended meaning out of context and abuse me, kill me, try to kill me. Oh my God, it is going endlessly. So no human society can survive. In those days it was not like that. Therefore, here what looks like we are only using to refer. And he says, I too know he is not thief, he is a great man. I am only just referring. Everybody laughs and then ignores. That means everybody knows he is a respectable person and we all respect. We are only using as a reference for easy identification. That's all. Similarly here, that's why we call him Krishna also. Krishna is a thief. We all laugh. But that thief is of a different type. We don't mean any demeaning in a disrespecting way. Isn't it? Similarly, when we just say, Atma is aham pratyaya vishaya, is not literally, is not really, but it looks aham pratyaya vishaya. We happen to refer as aham pratyaya vishaya, we happen to refer through I thought. Therefore, Atma is aham pratyaya vishaya. He is not Bhashakara or Swamiji is not telling Atma is aham pratyaya vishaya. It looks aham pratyaya vishaya, we happen to refer. Here, that reference, though it is wrong, that reference is used to refer Atma. Purpose is to refer the Atma through some manner. The manner of referring may be wrong. Okay. The manner of referring may be wrong. Even if it is wrong, it helps you to understand. The person, in that example, coming to that example, he looks like a thief. The person who looks like a thief, the person who looks like a rowdy, when you say, he may not be rowdy. But that reference of rowdy has helped you to understand that he is the person. Even if it is wrong, it helps you to understand. That it helped you to understand is enough. That I called him rowdy, edit it. Drop it, edit it, leave it out. Similarly, sometimes we use certain expressions, knowingly it is wrong, I know, yet we call him so that he can be identified, that's all. Not to disrespect a person. Similarly here, that's a Laukik Udaharana, you leave it, come back to the Atma. Aham pratyaya vishaya. Atma is no pratyaya vishaya. Yet in Vyavahara means in life, in the worldly life, it is referred through aham pratyaya. Therefore, Swamiji says, Sarvo hi atmanam aham iti pratyeti. Nacha asmat pratyayam vina kadachit bhavati atma vyavahara gochara. Atma cannot be referred in any other thought. If you don't use the thought, Atma cannot come into our thought thinking at all. Atma cannot come into our thinking, cannot come into our communication. If you don't use any word, it cannot be communicated, it cannot be referred. Then if you have to refer, for want of a better word, is a modern expression, English. For a want of better word, we are using aham pratyaya. Though it is not aham pratyaya vishaya, aham pratyaya gochara, for want of no other reference, we tentatively assume, we tentatively take this reference and refer. Therefore, asmat pratyaye evacha gochari bhavatyasau na pratyayantare. In no other thought it can be referred. Ato asmat pratyaya gocharaha aita. Then coming to the next point. Because paraspara viroda, there is a viroda, opposition between Atma and Anatma. For this opposition, he is talking of two features of opposition. Two features, two characters for opposition. One is asmat pratyaya gochara, one is referred by aham thought, another is referred by you thought. Second point is vishayi vishaya. Atma is the subject, Anatma is the object. So because of these two features, Atma and Anatma are totally opposite to each other. Okay. Now second feature he is describing, kimcha ayamatma vishayitvenaiva asmakam jnanapatham avatarati. Atma is found in our experience. Atma is seen in our experience, or Atma is experienced only as a subject. This is it. Atma is experienced as a subject, is referred by I thought, I notion. Atma is referred by I thought and is experienced as a subject, or it remains in our experience, it exists in our experience as a subject of something. Atma can never come as an object. Here Swamiji says, Vishayitvenaiva asmakam jnanapatham avatarati. Atma remains in our awareness only as a subject. How? Nahi kaschid anatma jatuchit atmanamenam svajnanena vishayi kartumutsahate. Why do you say Atma is always a subject alone? Why do you say Atma means consciousness? Atma is always subject? Yes, always subject. How? Tell me. Now Swamiji is putting a counter question. Tell me, is there anybody who can objectify Atma? Who has to objectify? If suppose Atma becomes an object, who is the subject who objectifies the Atma? Can Anatma do? Okay. Can Anatma know the Atma? See, Atma is the nature of consciousness. Therefore, it is always subject. Anything Atma alone has to know, consciousness alone has to know. Can Anatma? Anatma means what is known to consciousness, like a tree and human beings and all these objects. Can an object which is known to the consciousness, a Vishaya which is known to the subject, can an object know the Atma? Object means Anatma. Anatma has no consciousness at all. That's why we call it Anatma. Anatma has no consciousness. Anatma is capable of knowing anybody. Is not capable. Anatma is capable of knowing nothing. Okay. Kaschit anatma jatuchit atmanamenam svajnanena vishayi kartum utsahate. Can Anatma, Atma is consciousness. Anatma is insentiency, non-consciousness. Can non-consciousness know the Atma? If non-consciousness were to know the Atma, then we could say Atma is an object. Atma would become object. But unconsciousness, non-consciousness, that is Anatma. Anatma has no consciousness. Anatma can know neither Atma nor itself. Anatma cannot know itself also. Does the stone know that I am a stone? See, does the stone know that I am a stone? Does the earth know that? Does the table know that I am a table, I am here? Table has no consciousness. Table doesn't know that I am a table. Table doesn't know that I am using it as a table. I am sitting on it. I am putting something on it. I am hitting it. Table doesn't know. We are cutting the table. It doesn't know. Because table doesn't know anything. Table knows neither itself nor knows others. Therefore, Anatma is capable of knowing neither himself nor others. Because Anatma has no consciousness whatsoever. Therefore, then only Atma alone remains consciousness. If Atma alone remains consciousness, then Atma is always subject. It can never become object. Therefore, Atma Vishayi. Vishayi means ever subject. Anatmano jnanasyaiva asambhavat ayam tu Atma sarvameva svajnanena vishayi karoti. So, Atma alone knows anything. Atma's way of knowing is two ways. Swamiji's manana is I think adbhutavagide. Nobody can do this thing. You see the number of commentaries and compare. There are few points good in them also, but here few points, certain very subtle points. Ayam tu atma sarvameva svajnanena vishayikaroti. Atma can know. Atma means consciousness or a subject can know others in two ways. Ayam tu atma sarvameva svajnanena vishayikaroti nirvikalpena swarupa bhutena idamaham janati iti va savikalpena. Atma's way of knowing, Atma standing as a subject knows the Anatma in two ways. One is a Nirvikalpa way, another is a Savikalpa way. What is Savikalpa way? Knowing through a thought. That is, this is a book, this is a pot, this is Ghataha, this is Pustakam, this is Vrikshaha. So, this is, when a thought arises, this is called Savikalpa. Vikalpa means thought. Through a thought, Atma objectifies the world through a thought. Another way of knowing is, when Atma knows the world without thought, that means when entire Sakshi, entire waking Sakshi, the witnessing consciousness, when it knows the entire Avastha, it knows the Avastha how? Not through thought. Because the thought is a part of waking state. All thoughts are part of waking state. So we know the entire state as oneself. Then the Nirvikalpa means what? Knowing as oneself, inseparable from oneself. Nirvikalpa means without a thought. Without a thought means what? Whole entire Anatma becomes Atma only. Entire Atma is inseparable from consciousness in that sense. So Atma as a subject, being a subject, it knows the Anatma in two ways. One is a Savikalpa way, another is Nirvikalpa way. Savikalpa means through thought. Nirvikalpa means the world doesn't exist apart from oneself. That is a Sakshi's way of knowing. That means one is a Pramatru way of knowing, another is Sakshi way of knowing. Those who have already studied Vedanta, Atma standing as a Sakshi, it knows the entire Avastha as oneself. When Sakshi is knowing Avastha, where does it see Avastha? It sees Avastha as oneself. When Sakshi, the witnessing consciousness, knows the entire Avastha, entire waking state, it sees the waking state not as sitting in front of me. It doesn't see the entire Sakshi, the Vaishvanara, the entire wakeful consciousness doesn't see the waking world in front of it. When it looks at Sakshi, looks at the Avastha, sees the Avastha as oneself, as merged into oneself. It doesn't see separately. So, when Sakshi, standing as a Sakshi, when you know the Avastha, you know it in a Nirvikalpa way. Nirvikalpa means it merges into you. It remains inseparable from you. That is Nirvikalpa way of knowing. Then what is Savikalpa? The same consciousness assumes the Pramatrutvam, tentative role of Pramata, and sees the world. When you objectify a world through a thought, through Pramatru alone you can know. That means Atma can be both as a Sakshi and also Pramatru. Pramatru is also Atma, Sakshi is also Atma. But Sakshi is its original nature, Pramatru is a tentative, relative, assumed nature. Okay, all this detail, all this we discussed, we will leave them in other Kannada talks. So, idamaham janami iti savikalpena. Okay, in short, Atma alone is the subject. How it knows is okay, is a different issue. That it is the subject is the point here. What we are telling is Atma is always a subject. Vishayi, in Sanskrit, Atma is always Vishayi. Sarvadacha ayam jnane swapradhanaha eva pratate natu gunabhutaha kasyachititi Vishayi ityachate. That means Vishayi, subject andrenu. What is the implication of being subject? In any knowing, knowing anything, when Atma is knowing anything, outside world or the body or mind or sense organs, when Atma is knowing anything, in all knowledges, Atma stands pradhanam. Atma stands as a subject alone. It doesn't become an object. In all knowings, Atma can never become gauna. That means consciousness can never be object. Consciousness always remains a subject. Therefore, it is swapradhanam. Atma is always on a subjective side in any experience. In any experience, Atma is always on subjective side. Let us see. I think you will understand very clearly if I give you this example. When I am looking at the world, eyes are subject. Because eyes are seeing a form or color. You see, here is a book. Form and color, I am seeing this pen. So, eyes are the subject, but pen is an object. Okay. But eyes also I can know. I know that I have eyes. My eyes are open. My eyes are closed. I can know the condition of eyes. Who is that knowing the condition of eyes? It is the mind. Mind is knowing the condition of eyes. Here, what happened? Eyes have become object. Eyes have become object. Eyes means this netra, chakshu. Netra has become Netra stands as a subject when it knows a book. When it knows pen, the netra becomes a subject. But netra also can become object when you stand as a mind. When you stand as a mind, you know the netra as object. Okay. Then you can know your mind also. Mind means the thoughts and feelings. When the thoughts and feelings arise, change and disappear. Thoughts and feelings arise, change and disappear. That it disappeared also, you know. Again another thought comes, you know. That means mind also can become an object. The mind can become tentatively subject with reference to netra. Mind means a thought. Thought can become subject with reference to eyes, with reference to external object. But mind also can become object with reference to the consciousness. So here, sense organs, that is eyes and mind, tentatively become object, tentatively become subject. Tentatively means with reference, relatively. Relatively, with reference to another object, eyes become subject. But eyes themselves become object with reference to mind. Mind also becomes an object relative to Atma. But Atma is always subject. It can never become an object. Therefore, Atma continuously, always in all our experience, it is always subject, never an object. Whenever Atma is in your experience, it is there in your experience only as a subject, but never as an object. See, swapradhana eva. Atma sarvanubhaveshu vartate. Swamiji says, sarvadacha ayam. Jnane swapradhana eva pravartate. In all the knowledges, Atma is always a pradhana. Pradhana means it is important. That means it is on subject side. In all knowledges, whether you know the external world, whether you know sense organs, whether you know mind and body and the world and anywhere, in all knowledges, Atma is always on subject side. Eyes you see, mind you see, eye is relatively subject, relatively object. Sometimes it is subject with reference to external object, but sometimes it becomes subject also. Sometimes it becomes object also. But Atma, sometimes object. If Atma is a subject, can it become object for some time? Through somebody. Object for whom? Object to the thought? Object to the sense organs? Object to another person? Atma can become object to nobody. It is always subject. Swapradhana means it is ever subject. It can never become object of anything. Other objects like sense organs and mind and etc. relatively become subject and object. They are fluctuating. They are in ambiguous. They are in sometimes that, sometimes this. Not ambiguous. You can sell them. They assume two roles. Ambistatus, double status. Relatively, with reference to some, it is a subject. With reference to external world, eyes are subject. With reference to mind, it is an object. So, mind's subjecthood is a relative, tentative. But Atma's is always subject. Atma can never at any time in any experience is found to be object. Therefore, Atma is subject and it is Yushmat Pratyaya Gochara. It is always referred to I thought. Atma Tariktam Sarvam Atma Chaitanyasya Vishayibhuchate. Okay. Now we got Anatma. Now I just say the outlines and summarize and leave it because the time is up. First he says Atma, Anatma are two things. They are in their features, in their characters, they are totally opposite to each other. Therefore, Atma, Anatma, subject, object cannot be misunderstood, cannot be mixed up. One thing cannot be mistaken for other. It is impossible. Such a thing never happened in our life. He says. Why? Because their nature is such that they are totally opposite to each other. What are opposite to each other can never be mixed, can never be mistaken one thing for other. Therefore, first he described Atma's nature, two features. One is Aham Pratyaya Vishaya. Second is it is always subject. Now he has to say Anatma. Then what are the features of Anatma? Exactly these two are opposite. One is Yushmat Pratyaya Gochara, another is Vishaya. These 2 points, okay. These 2 points we say, and how it is opposite to each other, we have to discuss. And since they are opposite to each other, Adhyasa is Asambhava. This point we have to say. How they are opposite and why the mutual transferring is impossible. This point also we have to say. We will discuss tomorrow. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namah. Harihi Om Tat Sat. Okay.